Bill, a very good morning. How are you doing?
Doing great, guys. How you doing?
Uh,
Hey,
we're
Bill.
we're great. Thank you so much for joining us. And Colony is staring at me right now and wants me to ask you about Sean Andrews. Why would he want me to do that?
Colin, he likes to bring up things in the past.
Yeah, that's his whole life. That's how he is. But in drafting Ben, because it's gone back and forth, and we talked to Bouchette a little bit earlier. We talked to Ed every week here. Was it how close did it get to Ben not being a Steeler when you think all the way back, and now we're here with the last home game? Was it close to Ben not being a Steeler?
No, it really wasn't. When Ben was there was no question about it. He was the guy. I think the question was, would he be there? And when he was available, you don't have opportunities to get a player of that caliber. Now, no one expected him. I think when he came in to play as quickly as he did. He was when you talked about Eli Manning and Phillip Rivers. They were bigger programs. The pedigrees were there. Ben coming from the MAC, but as circumstances unfolded, he got in there before the other two, and as you can say, the rest is history.
If without going too far down this path, Bill, and retreading over something 18 years old, if Ben had been taken earlier, and let's say it's Rivers or Manning there, and let's suppose you would have selected one of those guys, do you ever catch yourself thinking back and looking back on things and wondering, what would it have been like with Phillip or Eli?
No, not really. I mean, I think those are hypotheticals. You sit there with the draft every year and talk about what if this, what if that, and the draft is a lot like a game. You go in there with a game plan and understand what you want, but it doesn't always unfold that way. So, I think we always do our due diligence in terms of the draft. And again, like I said, Ben, there was no question that Ben Roethlisberger was there, that he was going to be the guy to pick. And I think the big question was, would he still even be there? And so that was never an issue and never in question from the time that he was on the board. We turned in the card, I think, pretty quickly.
Now, Bill, you only had him for what, 3 seasons, I believe, and yet you've dealt with him, especially since you got back in the broadcasting business, on a semi-regular basis. So you've been pretty close to him over the years. How have you seen him change? Because I remember 2006 was that motorcycle accident where he was. I mean, it was reckless on his part. But how much have you seen him grow over the course of his career?
Well, like you said, I had him his first 3 years, and those were very formative years, particularly when you're going from the college to the pro game and walking into a team that really was a pretty much a very good football team. And he came in there and he he put himself into a position where he worked himself into being the leader of that team. And again, you watch him grow down through the years. You see the resiliency, you see the toughness, how dependable he is, but just a great competitor. And that's the one thing I always said about him. And that sounds like a Steeler, right? And I thought he has one of the best deep ball throwers in the National Football League down through the history. He can throw the ball deep and very accurately. But the biggest thing about Ben that I saw, you saw it a little bit early, but you saw it more as he got on to the game and became more comfortable and student of the game, was that his fourth quarter comebacks. He was one of those guys that, when he thrived in pressure situations. When the game was on the line, he wanted the ball in his hands, a little bit like a Michael Jordan did. And you think about the fourth quarter comebacks, he's third all time behind Tom Brady and Peyton Manning. So, when the going gets tough in the fourth quarter of a game, when a lot of it is him calling the plays, a lot of him in control, that's when he thrived and he was at his best.
Bill, the last time we had you on, we talked to you about your book, which was brilliant, and a lot of people in Western Pennsylvania got it for Christmas, and a lot of people have read it here. And one of the things that it outlined was being able to walk away from the game completely, and inability by some people, and a lot of people to do that when their career is over. Do you think that Ben is going to be able to do that? And just how tough is that to just fully break cold turkey and be done with football?
Well, I mean, I think it's a little bit different from a coach's standpoint than from a player's standpoint. I mean, there's a skill set that you can't play forever. Now, Tom Brady is kind of resetting what that cycle is and where that threshold is. But I think when you look at 18 years, you look at what he's accomplished in 3 Super Bowl appearances, 2 Super Bowl wins. I think he can walk back and he walk away from it. He came back this year, not for the money, obviously, because he took a pay cut. He came back this year because he has got a great passion for the game. He's a great competitor, and he still felt like he could play. And I still think you see at times when you talk about fourth-quarter comebacks, he's had 6 of them in this year, which is an all-time high for him. So he has been at his best in the fourth quarter. He has been at his best when the game's been on the line. He has been at his best when he's out there in control of the game. So, yeah, I think he will be able to walk away. I think he'll walk away with no regrets. Like I said, with what he's able to accomplish, and he left it all on the field. And I think, again, what he has done for the game, what he's done for this football team and for this city is something that people are going to remember him as being that type of guy that represented the team, the face of the team, the toughness, the resiliency, and the competitiveness that he's shown week in, week out, year in, year out. Will really, to me, will be the legacy he leaves with this team. And I don't think he'll have any regrets. And the only thing I'd say to him tonight, the last thing I'd say to him at home, you know what? You're down by 10. Let's begin the first quarter like it's a fourth quarter. Just go out there and do your thing. Let's have 4 fourth quarters tonight, and I think everything else will take care of itself.
Bill Cowher with us here on the Fan Morning Show, presented by Matt Mertz Plumbing, now part of the Armstrong Comfort Solutions family. Bill, when you look at what Ben has done over the years, how do you balance the first 5, 6, 7 years, 3 trips to the Super Bowl, a pair of rings, with the last 10 or 11 years, which have seen him been surrounded by great talent in some cases on offense, maybe not always the best defenses on the other side of the ball, but an inability for him and Mike Tomlin to get back to the Super Bowl?
Well, I mean, I think he set the bar pretty high. I think the expectation is very high, particularly when you did what he did so early in his career. Yet at the same time, I think when you look at Ben, you can only do what you can do at so much. So, you know, there's so much it takes and so much involved with going back to a Super Bowl and, you know, getting through the playoff run. There's, you know, the good fortune that happens along the way, the ability to be competitive and balanced at all 3 levels of your team. You know, there's 46 guys are out there every Sunday battling. So there's a lot of different variables that are involved with it. And to say it's about one guy that's not the case. So, you know, again, we could sit down and talk about what could have been and what has been, but I think when you look at his career overall, it's a Hall of Fame first ballot career, and he's done what he can do with the ball in his hands when he's had the ball in his hands, and I think that he's been very, very productive, particularly when the game's been on the line.
Well, Bill, maybe the best play that he made under your coaching was not with a ball in his hands. It was when Jerome fumbled.
Yeah.
Maybe you can take it, because I missed it because I was on my way down to talk to you guys. The game was over, right? That's the way it looked. Can you kind of take us through just the emotional roller coaster that you felt watching that play from the sidelines?
Well, yeah, I mean, it was certainly I remember, you know, and going to be on the Manning cast tonight, so we'll be talking about this with Peyton, and if he doesn't bring it up, I'll bring it up. So it'll be the playoff game, and we sacked Peyton on a 4th down, took the ball over inside the 5-yard line. They had enough time with their timeout, so we did have to run the football, and certainly with Jerome, I don't think he had fumbled all year. When he made that fumble, the ironic part about that is the corner that picked it up. We had no one else on the field. We had a bunch of 3 tight ends and a bunch of linemen. We had not much speed on the field. And Ben just kept backpedaling and finally spun around and tripped him up. And my goodness, saved the touchdown. And obviously we had the missed kick, and we moved on to the next week. And you really, when you think about that game, he came out and he made so many plays early in that game. We kind of went against the grain, threw the ball a lot in the first half, trying to run the ball in the second half. And but that play, without a doubt, was a key component of that whole year. And, you know, this spoke volumes about what he was able to do for us that year. I think the next week against Denver was probably his best game of that whole playoff run. But that was definitely maybe the best play of that playoff run.
You know what else jumps out at me in terms of, Jim just brought that up about a play that's non-traditional for a quarterback. On the L to Hines touchdown against Seattle, he threw a backside block on that play that sealed it, Bill. And not to say he didn't need to do that, but that's a quarterback getting his hands dirty.
A quarterback he did, and I think if you think about the first down he got in the fourth quarter, I think it was probably I don't know what happened between him and Jerome, but there was a missed handoff in the backfield. But like he is, there was just no hesitation in what he did. He knew where he had to get to, and he got there. And that's the thing about Ben, is his ability to have improvisation in a play. I think he felt very comfortable when plays broke down to feel out there and feel in control of the field. He could see the field. He understood what the situations were in a game. And that's the thing about him. There's unscripted plays that you had in the game that for the first time, I know as a head coach, and just that short period of time, is you didn't have to always just draw up the perfect drive. You have to just draw up the perfect play. That he would make plays at times that were unscripted. That his improvisation outside the pocket, his ability to extend drives with his feet, and to do things that were unconventional, really defined really a bit of who he was. And that's why you saw at times as the game unfolded, he had a great feel for the game. He had a great feel for matchups. He had a feel for the opponent. And all of a sudden, that's why you see him always thriving in the fourth quarter of games, because I think he has an ability to have an understanding on the field where his matchups were, what the scenario was in the game, and the confidence he had in his own ability to make the plays he needed to make.
Bill Cowher with us here on the Fan Morning Show, Black and Gold Uncensored, brought to you by 2 Men in a Truck, moving and junk removal. You're settled in New York now, Bill, and you get to watch the entire league every week. From a national perspective, is Ben Roethlisberger looked at any different than he is among Steeler fans?
Well, I mean, I think a lot of times you appreciate a lot more outside of where you play, because I think you always see the fault. I mean, I think we have a level of expectations you talk about, even for Mike Tomlin and for Ben Roethlisberger. Every time you fail to achieve something, it's like, wow, what's happened? Because you set the bar so high. But I think from the outside looking in, what you're looking at is, I think everyone looks at Ben. They see the toughness. They see the resiliency. They just see the competitiveness in this guy. You see the ability for him to make deep ball throws still in this 18th year that makes him so unique. I mean, has he lost a little bit of his mobility? No question about that. But he's still able to make the throws, make the reads, and he's still able to lead young players. He's doing it behind a young offensive line. Like I said before, you think about, of all the comebacks he's had, he's had 6 this year, which is the first most he's ever had in a year. This is in his 18th year. To be that good in the fourth quarter at his age kind of defines what logic would be in terms of what you'd be thinking. You'd be thinking a guy at his age, you get the early lead and he'll be able to hang on. He's bringing them back with his arm. Great deep ball thrower, a great feel for the game. Still, a tough guy is going to stay in the pocket, a tough guy to bring down. Players will always talk about that. He's still trying to throw the ball with guys hanging on him. That's what you see from the outside looking in. He's a very unique player, with a unique skill set, and still doing this for a long period of time, 18 years. I think it's an appreciation everybody has for him playing the game.
Well, you mentioned this fourth quarter stuff a couple times now, and so basically you're like just every other Pittsburgher, which is saying tonight, just to hell with Matt Canada, Ben, go out and do what you want to do and play the first quarter like you're playing the fourth, right?
Yeah, I wouldn't say the hell with Matt Canada, but you said that. But
I did.
I would just say yes. I would tell Ben, hey, Ben, we're down by 10 when we kick off. We're down by 10. Bring us back. And so maybe if you can just do that and understand that, still 4 quarters to play, but that's when he's been at his best right now, and certainly the struggles in the early part of the games right now would lend me to believe that it's worth going out there right now and just letting him go, no huddle, let him go out there with his guys, and then just throw the ball early, then maybe get a lead. We can go back to that running game a little bit in the second half when now the teams are a little bit on their back, they're on their heels. So right now he's been throwing the ball when the team has been behind. They know they have to throw the football. I like to see him do it earlier when the team has to really defend both the run and the pass. And then if you get the lead, now you're playing a little bit on their side of the ball when you have a little bit of control of the play selection.
Last thing before we let you go, there have been some rumors around town about this. Does Ben have broken toes, Coach?
Hey, what's the temperature going to be tonight?
It's about 25 degrees.
25. You guys are good. You're good. It gets to low 20. Be concerned. Don't anybody step on those feet.
Ben does not have broken toes. Thank you, Coach.
See you, Bill.
We appreciate it,
Thanks so
as
much,
always.
Bill.
All right, take care, guys.
We'll see you. That's still one of the all-timers.
One of the top 3 Bill
Ben does not
Cowher.
have broken toes.
One of the top 3 Bill Cowher
I think
drops.
that was
gotta
a
see
Shumway
his
question. too.
face, though, when he looked at him and paused for a second and bit his bottom lip and was just done with it. He was finished with it. Oh, is he so good?
Every time like Shumway or Sheldon Ingram
He
would show up
knew.
at Cowher's news conference,
He
he'd be
knew.
like, "Oh God,
What happened?
Yeah, when there was a non-traditional sports guy, he knew there was a question coming he didn't want to deal
Yeah.
with. Oh,
Who'd Kearney have to take care of last night?
I know what happened here.